Hello there, I'm Lloyd Evans. Welcome to The Bunker. It's time for another voicemail. Today's voicemail is from Natasha. Let's listen to what Natasha has to say.
Hi, Lloyd. My name is Natasha. I'm from Washington State here in the United States. My problem is my mom passed at the end of 2020, and I should preface this, I am disfellowshipped, but my mother and father did not disown me. They were kind enough to understand my situation and take me in. But while my mother was passing, so many other brothers and sisters were saying, oh, this should make you come back to the truth. If you want to see your mom, you'll come back to the truth. And that felt like they were holding this carrot in front of me that the only way I'm going to see my mom again is by repenting and coming back to the quote-unquote truth. I have 3 other sisters. One of them is baptized, but she hasn't been active in like 25, 30 years. And they both say it's hogwash and that God knows what's in my heart and that they shouldn't be able to tell me that. Still, it's what my mom believed, and that hurts because in her dying seconds, she was hoping that I would repent so she would get to see me when she wakes, in the new system. My question is, how do I reconcile this? How do I talk to myself and say, this is not the only way to see my mom again, but I will see my mom either way. Thank you so much, Lloyd. It's great to see you back on your channel. I'm sure many other people will agree with me. We've missed you. Oh, gosh, thank you for coming back, Lloyd. Sounds kind of funny. You're heaven sent. Thank you, Lloyd, for everything.
Thank you, Natasha, for that really touching message. I really do empathise. As someone who has himself lost his mother, you have my deepest condolences for your loss. And what horrible, what deplorable things were said to you. Essentially hijacking your mother's memory, exploiting the grieving process. These individuals saying to you, if you want to see your mum, you should come back to the truth. Well, is it the truth? Would be my question. You're using this really kind of shady, exploitative, hearse-chasing rationale of saying if you want to see your dead mother again, you need to return to the truth. Prove to me that it's the truth. Prove to me that the only way I'm going to see my mother again is if I accept the authority of a bunch of dudes who meet every Wednesday at their lakeside compound in upstate New York. Prove that to me, if you don't mind. If you're going to be so crass and so insensitive as to exploit my grief and my loss at such a dark time in my life, you'd better have some answers there. You know, I'd be really angry. You can see I'm getting angry now, because I think it's actually one of the most despicable elements of the Jehovah's Witness belief system, that it doesn't let you grieve properly. It exploits and leverages grief and loss and death as a tool, as bargaining chips, in order to manipulate people into believing or staying in a belief system longer than they probably otherwise would. I think many people continue as Jehovah's Witnesses because they're convinced that it's the only way that they're going to see their loved ones again. They become convinced of that. And it makes it very hard for them to start questioning their beliefs. So you have my most profound sympathies. I'm not best placed to answer the question, how do I convince myself that this is not the only way I'm going to see my mother again, that I will definitely see my mother again. I'm not best placed to answer that question as an atheist who no longer believes in, in any religion, really. I'm at a point now in my life where I don't find any religious belief system persuasive. I can say this about my own loss, and maybe it will be helpful for you. I struggle with the concept of an afterlife where perhaps my mother is in some way alive in some other dimension and observing my life unfold and not having any ability to speak to me. So witnessing the good times and the bad times, witnessing me at my absolute worst and not being able to provide any words of comfort. I think that that would be hell for any mother, to be floating around in the ether, in heaven or wherever, and to see people that she cares about or that our dead loved ones care about and not be able to interact. If you think about it, it would be an eternity of shunning. It would be an eternity of ostracism, of being treated as though you're dead because you are. I actually find it more comforting, the thought that my mother is sleeping, is no longer conscious. It isn't aware of the passage of time, isn't aware of what's happening to the people that she cares about. I find that more comforting. On the issue of resurrection, well, I suppose one thing I can say, because I'm not going to tell you, quite frankly, you're going to see your mother again, because I'm not down with lying to people. I'm not down with saying things just to comfort people, even though I don't believe that they're true. And the problem with dead people coming back is that the evidence suggests that once the brain dies, you die as a person. So in other words, people who suffer brain injuries and they lose part of their brain, it literally changes who they are as a person. If it happens suddenly, that is. Sometimes if it happens gradually, the brain can compensate. But if there's a head injury and someone loses let's say a chunk of their brain, it changes who they are as a person. In other words, that part of them no longer exists. And so but I struggle to accept that it's possible for people to be brought back after their brain has stopped functioning and has in fact decayed. Let's say hypothetically it would be possible for us to be reunited with our dead loved ones. It would be lovely, speaking personally, if I could see my mother again. I feel I'm able to process my grief and grieve more fully, dismissing that potential. I feel that holding on to this hope of seeing my mother again, for me personally, isn't helpful. It doesn't help me to say goodbye. If you're the opposite, and you absolutely must believe that your mother will return in some form someday and you'll be there to greet her, well, the only thing I can say is it sure as hell isn't going to be in the context of the Jehovah's Witness resurrection, which is just preposterous. It's just preposterous. So what's supposed to happen is everyone on earth who isn't a Jehovah's Witness is supposed to be slaughtered any moment now, very, very imminently, because we're in the last of the last days. So that leaves, what, a few million Jehovah's Witnesses? Because let's remember, not necessarily every Jehovah's Witness, and there are 8.5 million, not necessarily every Jehovah's Witness is going to survive Armageddon. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, a few million Jehovah's Witnesses make it through. Let's say 8 million Jehovah's Witnesses are left on the planet to cover over, to dispense with the evidence of the genocide of nearly 8 billion people. So they have to spend at least some time getting rid of the evidence of this mass slaughter. That's going to take years or even decades. And gradually, after this global catastrophe, this global massacre, I think it's been estimated 100 billion people have ever lived. I think that's the estimate. Let's call it half of that. Let's say 50 billion people have ever lived. Well, the planet right now cannot cope with nearly 8 billion. Nearly 8 billion right now is unsustainable for our planet, even with modern technology, even with sanitation, even with modern infrastructure and technology. The planet is struggling. The evidence is there. It just is, I'm sorry, with climate change. Our planet is struggling to cope with how many humans are on it right now. And we're expected to believe that tens of billions of people who have ever lived are gradually going to get resurrected and given an opportunity to be Jehovah's Witnesses. Don't waste my time with that silliness. It just is nonsense, isn't it? And then after 1,000 years, they all get tested. There's this never-ending cycle, it seems. The solution can't just be Armageddon. There needs to be another test after 1,000 years. Don't waste my time with all of that nonsense. Even if it gives people comfort to think of being reunited at some point or in some way, whether on earth or in heaven with their dead loved ones, I'm sorry, no one can persuade me that the way it's going to happen is by following 8 dudes in New York, Tony Morris, Stephen Lett, David Splane, viewing them as the ones who have been chosen out of all humanity to share God's wisdom. I'm not that gullible. I'm sorry. So hopefully there's some words of comfort somewhere in there. Again, I'm always going to have my hands tied behind my back with your specific question as an atheist. But you do have my absolute deepest and most profound condolences as someone who also lost his mother. We're talking about someone who is an integral part of your life. Their loss leaves a hole. It's a hole that, in my opinion, never gets fully filled over. I still struggle with the loss of my mother 20 years after it happened. I'm even dreading, not next month, but the month after. It will be 21 years, you know. The anniversary always gets me. So you have my absolute sympathy and compassion for your loss. And I hope that no matter what gives you comfort, no matter how you reconcile this in your mind, number one, you don't allow the toxicity of Jehovah's Witness beliefs to upset you, that you're able to distance yourself from that manipulation and that toxicity. and also that you're able to find a place of peace and that you're able to grieve properly in the way that's right for you. I hope that you managed to achieve that. And thank you so much for calling in and leaving such a lovely message. So if you would like to leave a message, the thing to do is go to speakpipe.com/Cedars, remembering to indicate clearly if you don't want me to broadcast your message on my channel. But that's all we have time for. Thank you so much for watching.